Hey, howdy hey, and welcome back to Emily's Adventure. Jesus Christ. What a special time of year. I feel so festive I could just explode and little tiny fir tree shaped glitters would come out. That's great, but I'm not sure I'll need you for this one. Looks kind of shit. Oh? Yes, do you remember last December when I reviewed Krampus Unleashed and they were watching a movie on TV that looked just as bad as the one they were in? Uh-huh. The movie they were watching was called Krampus the Reckoning, and it's the subject of today's video. Now this will be the third year in a row that I've reviewed a Krampus movie. Ever since the original 2015 film starring Toni Collette and Adam Scott, there have been a lot of knockoffs. It's hard to know how many and in what sequence to watch them, but I can tell you that the distributor Uncork'd Entertainment is responsible for at least 3 of them. You could even say they're building a cinematic universe based on the title of this one. Krampus the Reckoning came out in 2015, same as the original. The anatomically defunct CG Krampo on the cover is interesting. How does he reproduce? The film opens with, fair enough, a creepy choir.
Let me see it, darling.
I've never seen opening credits interspersed between chunks of intro like this before. I've seen this kind of thing in trailers, but never in the film itself, because it forces you to think of the writing on screen as just as important as whatever is in the film itself. Which it isn't. Also, the picture is very saturated. At first I thought my laptop's nightlight setting was doing that, so I turned it off just to be sure. And yep, still warm. Well, there we go, that fixed it. A young girl called Zoe is walking beside a river that looks an awful lot like the one from Krampo Unleashed.
Yes, Tristan, it was me. It was me all along. Strong for you.
Oh dear. This was clearly shot for the film. Or maybe it's an earlier film in the Uncork'd library and we're just going further and further down the rabbit hole. Alright, I'll talk about the plot now. Zoe heads upstairs to look through her box of dolls. One of them appears to be a voodoo doll of her demanding foster mother, so I'm sure that will come into play later. The mother's seen lining up some snow, get it? And partaking in shenanigans with some dude. After Zoe's locked in her room for the night, she decides to put the voodoo doll to good use. Yay! No reason nudity! Jesus, that's a bit much. We're not even 10 minutes into this Christmas film. Dude Bro heads outside for a smoke while Mom gets in the shower. And the movie gives us whiplash by displaying her nude body while he gets his face eaten off. Oh my god. You know what? I apologize profusely to Krampus Unleashed. At least they went with a real dude in monster makeup. This guy looks like he was designed by a second-year game design student. Now, be nice. Alright, a third-year game design student. Important thing to remember here, just before the attack, Zoe took a set of chains off her Krampus voodoo doll, which she also has. That's an interesting premise, that for some reason this little girl can get the Yuletide Punisher to do her bidding. Next morning, the police show up with guns drawn to gaze in horror at the charred skeletons, as you do. One of them nudges the locked door open to find Zoe sitting there, and they do the blanket and hot beverage treatment. She has a pretty good alibi, I have to say.
Dr. Rachel Stewart, I called from the road. I'm here for the Zoe Weaver interview.
Here we have a child psychologist who is quickly introduced to a whole bunch of people. Darned if I can remember their names. We even get a British doctor to bring us up to speed.
Took us the better part of an hour to get her to tell us her name.
Sure, I'll believe he's British. Rachel decides to talk to her alone.
What's that?
What?
That.
Oh, I've had that for a really long time. Since I was probably about your age.
The girl actually goes right ahead and alludes to the fact that Krampo came to kill Katie and Teddy, and she also asks for her dolls back. Now, the child actress isn't too horrible. I've seen far worse, and she's supposed to be slightly evil, so I see why it would come across a bit stiff. She reminds me a lot of Regan McNeil at the beginning of her possession.
I don't feel anything.
The cinematography isn't terrible either, so far. There's a lot of dead space in some shots, but there's some nice smooth panning at least, and the score fits the current mood.
And that is why Santa has 9 reindeer.
Excuse me, who are you?
Santa's gonna come and bring you all a bunch of presents on Christmas Eve.
That's not true.
And she's drawing Krampo, of course.
Zoe, You're a smart kid. They've been through a lot too, and they're littler than you. You don't want to scare them or give them nightmares, do you?
What a nice dude. He finds out that touching Zoe activates her weird supernatural electrical current and it freaks him out. That never comes up again. When Rachel comes back to talk about her foster parents' deaths, Zoe is cryptic and asks further questions of her own.
Is there anything else you can tell me?
Tell me more about your scar. You don't like to talk about it. Why?
Now I'm getting Case 39 vibes. You know that scene where Lilith turns the evaluation around on Douglas by asking what he's afraid of, and then later on he's attacked in his own house by a bunch of hornets? I liked that movie. Jodelle Ferland was a great little horror actress. Do you think kids can be scream queens? I don't think so. Anyway, Zoe outright admits that Krampus is known for burning bad people like her foster parents.
Burns them. Like Mr. and Mrs. Holzer were burned.
This film is laying all its cards on the table pretty early. I'm not complaining since it progresses the plot, unlike Krampus Unleashed, which meanders throughout the first half.
Lamar, dinner's here. Sweetheart?
Smoke? Oh no, has her son been burnt to death? Nope, no, it's just the food on the stove, even though his mother told him she was bringing pizza home.
I told you I was bringing pizza home.
Nice lighting here. I have surprisingly little to complain about here. Maybe this one got a better budget for 2015 because it knew the real Krampus movie was gonna be big.
Any chance you joining me?
Go home to your wife, Miles.
Serious thought.
Ooh, I think Miles likes her. Ooh, flirty, flirty. Meanwhile, Mr. And That's Why There Are 9 Reindeer is, browsing the dark web, I guess. And he told these guys to fuck off, so evidently he must die.
And that is how Santa's gonna come and bring you all a bunch of presents on Christmas Eve.
Soundbite cuts out a little early here. Meanwhile, Rachel researches Krampus on not Google.
Krampus, the Christmas devil. Originally found in Alpine folklore, he's a horned anthropomorphic figure who...
And she reads it all aloud for your convenience. I've got lipstick on my teeth. Next thing you know, Reindeer Man burns his hand on a doorknob like Joe Pesci in Home Alone and faces the wrath of Krampo. Can I just say, I love the burning alive makeup someone did on these victims. I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I wish I could tell you why his glasses are burning too. It's a little weird. Miles shows up at Rachel's door, a little too full of the drink because his wife is divorcing him.
For real this time.
What do you want to bet these two will end up knocking boots?
So, you and my mom. We work together, sweetheart. Lamar?
Just a second, we're attacking the warlocks in full force.
Oh, good delivery, Lamar. Yeah, practice makes perfect.
Shit.
Hey, language.
Sorry, we were so close that time.
I'd better not insult this kid's line readings. He might be the director's son or something. Ooh, flashback time. Ooh, I hope we get to find out how Zoe wrangled a Christmassy demon. And I hope we get to find out why Rachel is getting Zoe's backstory through the form of nightmares.
Grandma doesn't like us touching her things. She'll never know unless you tell.
Miles wakes up with a hangover and has to head straight into work.
I just saw this perfect child in the middle of all the horror and destruction. It really tugged at my heartstrings, though, so I called in a few favors. Fast-tracked the adoption.
That's, really good of you to do that.
Does he have a stereotypical grizzled cop voice, or is that just the hangover?
I just couldn't see letting him go into foster care. I mean, look at poor Zoe.
I hope this woman isn't thinking of adopting Zoe. I mean, I don't care how many heartstrings are being pulled here, that girl is too creepy. When Rachel tries to contact CPS about Zoe, not only is her information not in the system, but when Rachel tries to link the page she's pulled up, it suddenly disappears. Miles is summoned to the house of Reindeer Man as Rachel goes to question a former foster parent of Zoe. Painful memories, eh? Yeah, there seems to be a pattern forming here.
What?
I didn't say anything.
There's nothing wrong with my coffee.
It turns out Zoe was in their care 20 years ago and somehow hasn't aged at all.
No, it can't
Must have
be.
been taken a month, maybe two, before they found my daddy. Only hope he was dead before the fire got him.
You know, it just hit me. I know why this film is better than Krampus Unleashed. It's because the plot works just as well as a supernatural horror thriller if you take away the fact that the demon killing folk is Krampo. I'm not saying this film started out as something completely different and had to be retooled to fit the trend, but why did it have to be Krampo at all? Let's recap. The figure is described as the evil counterpart to Saint Nicholas. He punishes children who are bad, usually by swatting them with sticks or stuffing them in a bag to kidnap, drown, or even eat. As far as I know, he doesn't burn people, and he never targets adults because that wouldn't make any sense. Adults don't run on the same black and white morality you prescribe to children to make them behave and play nice with other kids. I guess I'll forgive all this if they explain how and why Zoe made him her bitch. Just saying, they could have gotten her any old demon to play with. Ooh, the nurse took away her dolls. Ah, bugger. We still got the Krampo one. Miles tells Rachel about the coincidental death of the dude from the kids' ward, who was getting more kiddie porn for his collection, that's his reason for being bad, and he urges her to get more information from Zoe.
Bring me some yarn and I'll tell you what you want to know. It has to be a dolly or it's not going to work.
They start getting into the death of Mr. Kelly from 20 years ago.
Do you know what happens at Christmas time?
Santa Claus comes.
Santa Claus isn't real.
Cover your ears, children! Zoe attacks Rachel, and the British doctor talks to her about her imaginary friend.
Krampus always hurts the people you don't like.
He only hurts bad people. People like Joe and Katie and Teddy.
Krampus is more than imaginary to you, isn't he?
Well, great! We've got our confession! Wait, what can the adults actually do at this point? Can't put Krampo in handcuffs, exactly.
Another beer?
We get something new out of Rachel, as she says she knows she's met Zoe before. Well, of course you have. You've spoken to her 3 times so far in the movie. Some pervert leers at her on her way to the ladies' room and makes his opinion known to Miles.
Man, you got a tight little package there. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. No doubt she's got a tight little body under all that. You just let me know if you need a hand co-working her over.
I love that the barman lets this slide, but when Miles correctly guesses Clay's identity and riles him up...
Clayton Ellsworth, a drunk bum who fell asleep with a lit cigarette. Fellas, please.
Pretty hilarious.
Your boyfriend's the kind of fellow whose mouth will get him into trouble.
Time to go.
Time for these two to dance. I guess getting scratched up by evil children turns her on. Meanwhile, Clay gets burned up by Krampo. I guess that was Miles's plan? He's connected to a lot of these deaths, isn't he? He's been called to many of them as a cop, and now this guy? You're just making yourself look guilty there, partner. Rachel talks about her repressed memories of the childhood event that gave her this burn scar.
I don't remember anything about my childhood before the stewards took me in. I know my birth parents died in a fire.
Oh, she's going to turn out to be the brunette child who was talking to Zoe in that flashback, isn't she? Got it, I know what's going to happen. Zoe has the yarn to make a doll of Rachel, and we flash back to when they were kids together.
Chains made the Krampus the servant of the saint and to no longer punish at will, but would now only punish those of Nicholas's choosing.
They read an incantation that summons him and binds him to... Whoa, more nudity. Way more nudity than I wanted. Oh God, I can see every hair and freckle on his ass. Get it away! Okay, that may have been a dream sequence, but that was amazing. Well, someone's been watching Rosemary's Baby. How is he even fucking her? We established he doesn't have any bits. Zoe teleports to Rachel and Lamar's house, and they lightly jog to the car and escape, but Zoe catches up and forces them to crash. The two of them are taken to hospital. In her mind, though, Rachel awakes with her wrist freshly scorched and walks through a hospital dreamscape. It's revealed that, as a child, Rachel was the one to summon Krampo in the first place, killing her family and her sister Zoe. Wait, so Zoe's been a ghost this whole time? That's confusing. It means that ghost Zoe has been dawdling for 20 years, having Krampo burn other people before getting to Rachel. And why did she insert herself into the foster care system? And yes, since you ask, Rachel is incinerated by Krampus. So her son ends up in the ward for traumatized kiddies. I'm not even joking, he actually does. Here you go, Rach. You get 1 flower. Single posy that I nicked from my granny's neighbor's garden. Well, that was an experience. I don't hate this. Although the Krampo character model is pretty atrocious, the story has some good twists and turns, and the characters are fleshed out enough that you want to see what happens to them. One problem it doesn't share with Krampus Unleashed is the plot taking forever to get going because the family has to hang out and eat sandwiches, so I'll give credit where it's due. And if you ever wanted to see Krampo having sex with a human lady, outside of porn, well, here you go. I never expected that. Unfortunately, the end does kind of let it down as it raises far more questions than it actually answers. For those reasons, I give this film 5 jam sandwiches out of 10. The end of another year. I just want to say thank you to everyone who continues to watch and support my channel, and yes, and I can promise you that this channel is going to do some serious growing in the next year. We're going to do great things, and it's all thanks to you, my wonderful darlings. Oh, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Please don't. I'll be back making reviews in January. I'll be making some things for Patreon in the meantime. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio.
Hey, Vsauce! Michael here.